Yo, 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 back with another episode of the PDX Black Rose Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Christian, and today we have a lovely guest, Shant'e Hayes, who is with 972Eleven Boutique. She's an entrepreneur, she's a mother, she's also working with the school district, balancing the 9 to 5 and the entrepreneurship and life as an adult. We have some great conversations around just like being in Portland, opportunities, COVID, all the good things that we've all experienced, but never really get the opportunity to talk about. And so it's a great conversation. Hope you guys enjoy it, and definitely check out her boutique. It's online. She ships right to your house, all that stuff. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and get it started. I wanted to take a break from the episode to let you know that we have some merch that is available. Over at Iltopia Studios, you can find the Black Superheroes Matter art book, which is a collection of illustrations that reimagine your favorite superheroes through the eyes of children of color. We also have a bunch of sticker packs, over 120 different sticker designs of your favorite superheroes. More importantly, we have our Color Me Super coloring book series. Definitely check out the merch at shop.iltopia.com or blacksuperheroesmatter.com. And now, back to the episode. Thanks again for joining me on another episode of the PDX Black Rose Podcast. Today I got Shant'e Hayes, and it's a lovely Portland spring. It's officially spring, right? Like
it is.
It's not warm, but it's the sun is out. How's everything doing with you?
Things are actually going super exceptional, which is something I haven't been able to say in a long time. So I'm super excited to say that. Going really, really, really well.
Nice. And so, this year has been full of interesting plot twists,
yes.
I would say, right? Like we got white people rioting all over the place. We got, we got stimulus checks hitting the bank account.
I know. Everybody is rich this year.
And I feel like in Portland, we had a very short winter compared to most winters, right?
Indeed. It went like that.
Yeah. I kid you not, it felt like we just had that big the big snow day of the year. We had that a month and a half ago, and now it's just
that was a month and a half ago. Wow.
It was literally yesterday. Me and my girlfriend were walking down Burnside up towards Powell's, and we're the last time we did this was Valentine's Day. And
it was snowing.
It was snowing. It was snow everywhere, and everything was shut down because it was snowing. And so we couldn't actually go any place and go eat or whatever. Everything.
I remember that very clearly. It's no Valentine's this year. Yes.
Yeah, and literally that was a month and a half ago, and so I was just crap. This is crazy. This isn't normally like this. But yeah. So what how's the year been for you? Post pandemic, peak pandemic, post peak pandemic of 2020. How has 2021 been treating you?
2021 post peak pandemic has served as a gift for me. I don't, sometimes it works against me being way too optimistic, but it has given me a chance to kind of reevaluate every area of my life to see what's working for me and the processes and the day-to-day, if I was actually following everybody else or if it was something I had set out for myself, and either way it went, if it was actually working for me. So it's actually been super amazing to give me a chance to kind of give myself a lot of time to review what I had going on. and actually decide to keep it that way or change it. So I would have to say it has been a definite blessing.
Oh, nice. Yeah. It's just, the beauty is that if you're able to survive the realities of the things that are happening, it really forces you to pause and reflect on a lot of things, not only your life, your pathway, your mortality, all those things are sort of up front and center. And And I think with that responsibility and opportunity, I I think it really it provides a pathway for uh I mean, either just like, improve growth, over a
Mhm.
smaller amount of time, right? Like,
Yeah.
uh, the time that like you spend sort of reflecting and improving on things in 2020 will probably take, 2, 3 years to do,
Yes.
because there's going to be these other distractions now
Hmm.
that are going to be, further incorporated back into our lives.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
And yeah.
I just think about how much time I just gain from not having to go to work, you know?
Driving
Like
and the gas and the commuting and the listen. Yeah.
like it was just like, huh, I got more money in my bank account because I'm just not going out doing all the things that like are
Absolutely.
required. Uh, which is interesting because I would say tax season, I tend to have a lot of like high, like my expenses are very high to
Hmm.
like just operate things.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm seeing that like the expenses are much lower
Oh
uh,
yeah.
than what they normally were, and if anything, the expenses were probably at the peak in like February, like January, February,
Hmm.
and then it just drastically just cut.
I thoroughly agree with you about that. I think that looking at my money, I was like even back about how most of the time the things that I was into that actually was costing money, I was doing it out of the feeling of obligation, like birthday parties, engagements, not wanting to come empty-handed to a barbecue.
Yeah,
Like everything that I was doing, I enjoyed it to a degree, but it was more out of obligation and less out of like, I really, really want to be.
yeah.
And so with us all being forced to be at home, I was like, I kind of like this new way of life.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for
And
sure.
yeah, so like what are you doing now? Like what do you do these days?
And so primarily I have three things actually, all one on my first list of things that I do most. I am a mother of a 16-year-old
That's
and
fun.
she's a junior. So we're like gearing up for college and me also going through this checklist of, okay, what haven't I taught her? So that we can start touching on those things before she leaves. I'm a full-time admin assistant for the school district
Hmm,
and also a boutique owner. So I own 97211 Boutique. So I have three things that equally take up a lot of my time. And
yes.
so that's primarily what I'm doing. So really right now, my main focus is just consistently creating that balance among the three while also creating that healthy carve out time of personal time for whatever that looks like. My dealing with myself, maybe personal growth and quiet time, or dating, or outings, or whatever that looks like. Just kind of like reevaluating my life overall, and just seeing how much more balance I can get. So that's kind of been what I've been doing.
Finding balance. I think that is sort of the one of the themes of last year is that you're not able to it's really hard to compartmentalize things when you're doing all those things in the
Oh
same.
yeah, absolutely.
It's and I think for me as like a freelancer, I think the thing that I was pushing towards last year was getting office space
Uh huh.
so that I can sort of force that balance. Leave the office, I can leave all the stuff
Yes.
there. It's really hard to leave stuff at work.
Uh huh.
And your work is right next to your kitchen. Like it's
Literally, my kitchen is right here, so I totally understand.
you know and so like it was funny because like the things that like I've tried to figure out and tried to find balance in like pre-pandemic
Mhm.
are the things that like are trending and people were trying to figure out during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I empathize with that, but then like for the people that are like, oh, why don't you do this, why don't you do that, why don't you just
Mhm.
shut it down sometimes, it's like it's actually really not that easy to do that,
Yeah.
especially when like you work, right, like you like it's all sort of overlapped and confined in
It does
one
indeed. I
space.
mean, when I come downstairs and I see my work computer and monitor right in my living room, I am like unconsciously drawn to it. And
Yeah.
I'll sit in my chair just to log in, just to see if I miss any emails or whatever. It's tough. It definitely is
Yeah.
tough. That's definitely something I miss. Working in a building, I can close my laptop and go home and then come back and start again. So it
Yeah.
definitely makes a difference.
Yeah. And this is something I always try to like, you know, talk to like my girlfriend about where, you know, because she works in a hospital. So
Yeah.
she goes to work and then she comes home.
Uh-huh.
And she'll get frustrated with me because she'll say, like, why don't you just like not do your computer or you don't
Hmm.
work or whatever? It's like, well, it's actually, you know, it's a privilege to just say that right now because,
Yeah, it is.
you know, like I got 20 different email addresses. They're all attached to my phone.
Hmm.
They're all on my computer and I have a work computer and all this stuff. But all that
Hmm.
stuff is literally like within a 5 square foot distance of each other.
Yeah.
And so it's like if I get off of work, I take 3 steps and now I'm on the couch.
Yeah.
You know? And if I it's you know, and that comes with a level, you know, that comes with a perspective and a just sort of rules of engagement that you have to navigate uh,
Yeah.
just to find balance or just get to where she just naturally is.
Hmm.
So and so it's interesting. It's
I
interesting.
think I think it's all a learning process. I know that the when I was younger, I used to just do a lot more talking, a lot less listening, and definitely was a know-it-all. And I looking back was like, it sounded good and it made sense on paper, but it's not until you're actually in the
Yeah,
in those situations yourself where your perspective could absolutely completely change. And not to say what I said initially wasn't correct, but it's easy to make an assumption when you actually are not in that. And it's not good, bad, or indifferent. It's just really all about perspective and
yeah,
experience. Yeah.
yeah. And I think I think the perspective changes when you get to see like the nuances of that
Oh
experience,
yeah. There's some
right?
things you just don't know is happening when you're in it
Hmm.
until you're actually in it.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
like oh yeah, you know, having a Maserati or you know a nice car is great, and I would want to drive one of those.
Yeah.
But you got to pay you got to pay the premium gas prices. You got to do more maintenance just to
You got
keep its luxury.
you got to make sure you're not driving down the wrong streets where
Yeah,
it's a lot of pot. It's a lot more you're thinking about that you weren't thinking about before. I believe
yeah,
you.
and it's like I just want to just drive a car and just look, you know, just flex a little bit. Like I didn't want to do
Just a
all this
little.
stuff, you know. And I think that's I think those are the things that you sort of just comes with experience, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like yeah, you might think you know what's going on, but
Yeah.
until you actually do it, like you don't know what like like what it's like to just experience it.
Yeah. My mom used to always say, just keep on living a little while, and you'll
Yeah,
get to experience some of the things that I'm telling you about. And baby, I'll be like, she was right.
yeah. It's just like
And I'm
man,
pretty sure it's like that in a lot of areas for a lot of reasons. Yeah.
yeah. And so you mentioned that like uh you know work for the school district and then
Hmm.
you have your own boutique.
Hmm.
Like what came first? Like was it that like you know started doing the 9 to 5 and you
Uh-huh.
started like down that career and then after a while you're like, huh, I got this itch that I just want to, you know, scratch a little bit. Let me
Yeah.
just put myself out there.
It was definitely the 9 to 5 first. I have been working since 14. I don't know if you remember or were here, but Portland had this program called YEI, Youth Employment Institute. So they would employ high schoolers. No, I wasn't in high school. They would just employ youth in the
Mm,
summer. So they would sign you up with programs and you would work all summer, 9 to 5. And so I've always worked. And then I had a couple of cousins who were so into work. And I was like, way in, like, girl, you need to get you a job so you have your own money. So working has always been my thing. And I'm also like very much a free spirit. I'm kind of like, I very much am comfortable being led, but I also am very independent too. And
yeah.
so I was comfortable being led at the 9 to 5, but I also hadn't really scratched the itch of being independent and doing my own thing. And so I was like, what can I do? What do I like? And I really love fashion. I love being a woman. I love empowering women to be comfortable in their skin. And so I was like, I can start a boutique. And so it took a while to get it going, but here we are today. Um, and so it kind of it's just created my own little space in the world where I'm the boss and I call the shots. And it also is fulfilling and it gives me a reason, something new to introduce to my kid before she hits the world to get an idea of what it looks like for mommy to be a 9 to 5er and also an independent business owner. So it was necessary. It actually helped create that balance for me.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's how I got there.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's a. I always found that like the journey of, I think so. It's one thing to sort of be an entrepreneur. It's
Hmm.
another thing to be, the 9 to 5er, and then there's
Hmm.
another thing to be a freelancer.
Uh-huh.
Freelancing sucks. Like, well, I would say freelancing, going from 9 to 5 to
Uh-huh.
freelance is cool.
Hmm.
Going going to freelance because you don't have the 9 to 5
Uh-huh.
is a whole different story.
Hmm.
It's and
The motivation is different.
yeah, the motivation is different, right? Like you're over there pinching pennies to try to like get whatever going just so you can just pay the bills
Uh-huh. Over
versus
here, I got to transition out, and over here, I just got thrown into the wolves.
yeah, yeah. And so for me it's I went from freelancing
Hmm.
to like trying to get more of a 9 to 5 thing.
Oh, uh-huh. How did that work out? Were you like
It
at first, did it not feel so good being 9 to 5 again?
No, it's like the thing that attracted me to the 9 to 5 is that like you like everything wasn't up in the air.
Mm.
So it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, I may have like a project that comes in and I could pay bills for like 2, 3 months. And then you'll have a dry spell for like 7 months. And then you're just
Hmm.
like, I'm taking anything and everything just to get things done. And so
Hmm.
like I found that like my like I was always on this sort of this I was on edge all the
Hmm.
time, because I wasn't sure when like the next thing was going to come in. Uh,
Absolutely.
and I think, talking to freelancers that went from like the 9 to 5 to being a freelancer, they were
Hmm.
able to establish sort of those connections and those projects and those clients so
Hmm.
that they had some consistency, but then they had the control. And so
Uh-huh.
I have full control, but I had no opportunities to do nothing, right? Like unless I just like spent more time and worked and did all that stuff to like
Yeah.
put things out there. And so it's for me the going the 9 to 5 route just let like that was me trying to alleviate stress
Yeah. There you
in a
go.
way,
That's good.
you
Hmm.
know. And
And they give you a chance to kind of re-look at your blueprint to see, okay, now what can I really do now that I have a little bit
yeah,
of backup sustaining me? Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. That
It's
was smart.
it's funny because I ended up doing that and realizing or getting to a point where I like felt comfortable and
Hmm.
like things were starting to pick up. And so
Hmm.
once I got to a point where I was like, okay, well, I'm getting a lot of projects coming in now as a
Uh-huh.
freelancer. And so the 9 to 5 is sort of holding me back to the
Uh-huh.
point where I could just take a step back from that and do other stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, then COVID hit. And then it was like, the 9 to 5 thing just wasn't a thing at all anymore because I
Uh-huh.
was a personal trainer. So it's like
Uh-huh.
that mess was not going to happen anymore.
You're a
And
personal
so,
trainer?
well, I was. I played. So I played football for Oregon State, and
Uh-huh.
I was, sports medicine degree, master's in sports psychology, all these different things, right? So like that was like my area pre like
That's amazing.
you know pre pre moving up to Portland and stuff.
Hmm.
And so after I retired from playing, then I sort of like moved up here to and try to get into medical school.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but yeah, like that was just a thing. I was qualified for it. That worked. But then I realized that wasn't, with the creative stuff and all the other stuff that I was doing.
Hmm.
Uh, there were just the pathways for like furthering my career
Hmm.
just sort of came to where I was back as a freelancer but like
Hmm.
with actual connections and stuff
Hmm.
and so now it's like I am still a freelancer,
Uh-huh.
but the contracts that I have now are like Portland Public Schools, Portland Community College,
Uh-huh.
freaking Wacom,
Uh-huh.
Unity Technologies, like all these different things where it's like, dang, this is nice. Like I could get used to this.
That's a
But
beautiful thing. Uh-huh.
but I think, the pandemic definitely played a part in it,
Hmm.
and me actually having that balance initially with like that 9 to 5 allowed me
Hmm.
to just take the time to sort of build and grow, and yeah, like it
I love
just,
it.
can't they would just see where it goes, right?
Oh yeah.
Like
I
it
think that's fantastic. I really, really, really do. So you're going
like
to be able to, are these contracts going to end by the time you head out or no?
I don't know. Like I think the conversation is how can I balance all of it? And so like
Hmm.
as I leave, uh, what things can I balance in some capacity?
Yeah.
And so the beauty is that like because I have a company and I could hire people and all that stuff, that can alleviate some of the
Yeah.
technical things that need to be
Hmm.
done, and so I could focus more on sort of the vision and all the other things that sort of
Hmm.
round out the project or make those opportunities attractive. And so it's I guess the next steps are just talking to lawyers and talking to all these different things about
Uh-huh.
the IRS and what to do in this area and that area. So I don't know. This is the stuff you don't. This is why people go to business school, because you will be aware of this stuff, at some point,
Uh-huh.
uh, opposed to just sort of YouTube University where all
Listen,
this stuff is just
YouTube has saved me a many a days. You understand me? I totally get it. But I definitely am excited for you figuring it all out because you will. You'll figure it all out. And then you'll be like, I remember I used to be stressed about this and now I got it figured out and
yeah.
on to bigger and better things. Watch.
Yeah. And so but so for you, what is the thing, like how, like what does that balance look like for you with like your 9 to 5 and then
Mhm.
your entrepreneurial stuff?
R- Right now, it looks like a mess, a beautiful mess, because my job is it's a lot to do and there's always moving parts in a good way though, right? Because it's like we're supporting the kids and we're
Uh-huh.
helping, um just hope to make helping in hopes of making PPS a better place for our kids, right? Of all
Yeah.
colors. And so you definitely are dedicated over there, but then also over here, I'm equally as passionate about my business, because I also am trying to make the world a better place in the sense of, empowering women to feel better about themselves, right?
Yeah.
And for in all of the ways, like how you feel about yourself on the inside, on the outside, how you see the world, and all that kind of stuff. And so they're both important as well as being a mom. And so sometimes I have it balanced and it's smooth sailing, and other times it's like, girl, you don't know if you're coming or going, but you just have to do your best to kind of keep up. My goal ultimately is to, I actually just found a young man who went to school with my daughter. So he's going to help me part time.
Mm,
And so right now, I think I'm in the same place as you, is trying to figure out what can I incorporate to keep myself thriving in both areas with less pressure and less stress. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. I really don't know what that looks like just yet.
yeah.
And so, but I do know that I've been in these situations in other times and I figured it out. So I know I'm gonna figure it out. So right now, just kind of in the dark, feeling my way through to figure out this. Okay, no, that doesn't work. Okay, that does. So give me some time. It'll work out soon. But then ultimately, really just wanting to, I think, be a full-time entrepreneur with a thriving business. That would be my ultimate goal.
So would that be the end of the 9 to 5?
I think so. I think that that would be a dope goal for me. I would like to be full time because I do know that there's a lot of other things that I want to do. And so
Hmm.
I would be able to create these two other business streams, which I've been kind of playing around with in the background. And I can kind of be busy, but be busy doing my own thing. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
would definitely be the goal.
I think because I think there's always this, for I think for Black people in general,
Hmm.
particularly like in Portland or somebody that's independent. There's a level of uh, attraction uh, that we all have to just have an impact in the community, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, and so that's why we're most likely going into sort of service industries and all these different things,
Yeah.
because we're all sort of like culturally, we're all just like community oriented.
Uh-huh.
And it doesn't matter if you go to Florida, it doesn't matter if you go to, freaking Reno or Minnesota or California or Oregon, right? Like you're always going to find that sort of that community
Uh-huh.
that can resonate with you culturally. And the thing that like I've appreciated about being in sort of the entrepreneur space is that if I wanted to have an impact in a certain area,
Uh-huh.
I could have a product, I could have a service, I could do some sort of philanthropic thing
Uh-huh.
uh, without having to ask for permission for something,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
like for me, I'm big on just exploring the power of education, and
Mm-hmm.
particularly just access to books.
Mm-hmm.
Access to books and access to just like activities and stuff, just to allow kids to explore. And in many ways, it was just like, like that stuff costs money. You got to
Oh,
find
yeah.
ways to pay for it. You got to find ways to source it. All these different things. But as a creator, it's like I just make that myself and just put it out there,
Yeah.
and I can control the price. And
Yes.
so it's like, if I want X amount of kids to just have this, I'll just spend some time do it, and then just put it out there. And
Yeah.
and having like being able to say that and then realize that and then
Uh-huh.
see the impact of that,
Uh-huh.
just from actions and ideas, I think is really, really powerful.
I think that's where everybody is, the world in general is headed to. There's a gentleman that I follow on YouTube, and his name is Kev on Stage. But he I kind of been following him for some years, and he's in Hollywood, and he also always wanted to be in that arena. But every time he would go out for roles or things of that nature, he would get way more turn downs than yeses. And he was like, I'm just tired of being told no. So I'm going to figure it out on my own and create my own lane. And I was like, I think that's where we all are headed. We're tired of kind of always having to head to these same institutions to ask for permission to
Yeah.
do what we want to do or to be who we are. And I think it's just like that's not how it was ever meant to be. And I think we are all waking up um, to that, and people are just really just out here like doing their own thing and no longer asking for permission because it's like, why?
Yeah. Why?
And even if you say yes to me, you may not even get my concept or fully get who I am. So I'm still like being like, you know what I mean, put in this
Yeah.
box and not fully being able to be me. So what are we doing? No.
Yeah.
And I'm all about that. Like, be free to be you. I don't need permission.
Oh yeah. And, and so for your boutique, like, did you have a physical location, or was it?
No. So because of my 9 to 5, I am online. So it's an online boutique. Before the pandemic, I was like, I built out my website and I would post a little bit, but I wasn't really getting much traffic. But I'm telling you, as comfortable as I am in my skin, I am not a fan of the camera. Okay. I put on a good face, but when that camera's on, I'll be like, oh my God, I can't wait till this is over. But because of the pandemic, I was forced to go live every week, and it has helped my business tremendously. And so that's where I'm at right now, just kind of like growing it and just trying to like build it out to the point where I can actually incorporate other businesses, and it won't be as hard to build out those other ones because, I finally have some decent amount of eyes on me.
Yeah, like that was the thing that I learned over like the last holiday season, was that, you know, as an entrepreneur, you might have a product or you might have something, but
Hmm.
the reason people will the reason people will care about the stuff that you're doing is if they see you.
Yeah, they
and
see you. Yeah.
and and for me, like I used to do, like I did the My People's markets.
Uh-huh.
I was freaking selling art in the street. I
Yeah.
was doing all these things, doing conventions. Uh, but when it came to sort of like an online identity and like persona and having to like do that stuff online,
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff that I did was as an artist or creator was really like, okay, the work will speak for itself. I
Yeah.
don't need to be in front of it.
Hmm.
But I'm saying that like it's one thing to just get a like, and it's
Yeah.
another thing to get a
Get
Patreon or
us
a support.
listen.
Right?
Uh-huh. And with Portland, so with it being so tough for people of color to grow their business to a place where you can actually be financially stable, you have to do a little bit more, a bit more. And one of those things is putting yourself out there. And
Hmm.
it came to the point where I just was like, okay, listen, Shant'e, are you going to let your shyness or whatever you want to consider that be the focus? Or are you trying to get this business growing? You're going to have to choose up. And I just was like, okay, I got to choose
Yeah.
this over here. And it has helped tremendously. And people really, they're really buying you. I really am learning that when they like you, they'll buy your stuff. If they don't know you, they'll pass right by you. It could be the same thing they selling in Nordstrom's, and Nordstrom's are selling it for $200, but I'm selling it for 40. They're still going to buy from Nordstrom's because Nordstrom's has put themselves out there. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yep. Yep. And it's, it's just one of those things that like, you I think part of it is just like that level of like acceptance of like,
hmm,
okay, if they don't buy it, maybe it's because of me, or
yeah,
this sort of imposter syndrome of like
uh-huh.
maybe I'm holding it back, like, but that, I think that's always going to be there, like
Hmm,
regardless. Like me 3 4 months into sort of like being the face of the stuff that I create,
Uh-huh.
I still have that thought of like, dang, I gotta talk myself into doing this right now.
I think that's always. I don't know, I'll maybe like circle back around to this thought in a year, but to me, it feels like it's a way of keeping yourself balanced. It's like you don't want to get too cocky, so
Hmm.
there's still that level of humility in you.
Yeah.
Um, to like, okay, I don't want to be too cocky to where I don't think I got to do all of this and I should just be selling off the shelves like that,
Yeah.
just kind of staying humble. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's
I think there's a level of that, because I think there's a level of that of like, man, why I gotta do this? This is selling, because I don't want to have to go up there and
I
I'd
know.
have to do it. Like that's an extra thing.
Yeah.
And so I think there is that sort of underlying feeling of like, I wish I could just post something and just have
And then
sales,
sell out. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Uh, and but we're not there yet. We're not
Yeah.
there. It's you got to. There's levels to this, you know. Um,
It
but
really is.
yeah, so like for you, okay, so like the I would imagine the 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 realities of being an entrepreneur for you uh, during COVID, when everything shut down,
Hmm.
has definitely changed
Hmm.
in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like what aspects of like you just operating uh changed when you couldn't go, and like when you only had online stuff.
Um, I think being forced to, well, first, okay, pre-pandemic, I had a lot of the like the My People's Markets and the other vending
Hmm.
events. I would sell a lot of stuff at those events. Um, I'm I feel like, okay. I feel like I'm pretty good at creating an aesthetic to make you interested to come over to my station in the first place
Yeah.
and set it up in a way that makes it look interesting to come. And so I was selling a lot at those events. But when those are shut down, I was like, girl, you ain't had to sell in a few months. What?
Right.
You ever glad you got a job because you would be out of here. And so I was like, okay, listen, do I want to just quit the store or do I want to figure out something else? And so it really genuinely forced me into an arena of putting myself out there more. And I think even bigger than that, I had to learn how to believe in myself more that what I had was actually good stuff. And so that really was the me having to uh, increase my like self-esteem in the area of being an entrepreneur. Like, do anybody even care enough to buy my
Yeah.
stuff? And then that trickled into, okay, you can actually get in front of this camera and do a little bit. People actually are going to relate to you. And then actually like being comfortable posting stuff and knowing people would like it. Just all of little bitty things that kind of everything worked out in the end. So I'm kind of, it kind of has helped the online store. I definitely don't see myself doing a physical location because I know that people are making a lot of money, but I don't know if I would make as much like at the store 9 to 5 every day. So I feel like I'm better off online. I don't know. We'll see how that
Yeah.
goes. But
I mean, at this point, we all know that you don't have to have a store to be successful. I think
yeah,
that's
that's for sure.
that's the sort of the silver lining of all this is that
Hmm.
like, you know, when all this stuff sort of stops,
Uh-huh.
things are going to be different. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it,
I think right now I'm just trying to build up I think kind of circling back to what you said earlier, I'm just trying to create this place where I can keep the momentum going. And
mhm,
so I'm just like, okay, let me do better with posting on social media. Let me do better with taking these people who follow me on my journey of maybe like redecorating my store and just kind of being more personable, really just paying attention to even you, like you have these podcasts and people are kind of getting to know you and your personality and how you got here. And I just was like, I didn't have that out there. I kind of just was like, you don't know me, but buy my clothes. And so now it's
yeah,
like, girl, they don't know you. You
yeah,
need to start back there. Forget the clothes. They need to know you. And so I'm kind of there. Like, okay, let's build this relationship because that's how I buy from the people that I buy from because I have a relationship with them. So
hmm
it
yep,
has helped tremendously. It definitely almost completely changed my way of looking at this business. So yeah.
yeah. And it's I think there isn't like a rule book for it. I think
Oh
it's just
no.
like, what do you feel like doing? And then
Yeah.
when you do it, do you feel like continuing it?
Yeah.
And if you feel like continuing it, then just be accountable to yourself,
Yes. I think that's one of the things like the 9 to 5, even growing up when I was young, my mom was a mother of 5 kids. And so she had to definitely like create rules and boundaries because it was too many of us. And so I just was always groomed to follow the rules. Okay, that's what she said do. That's what we're going to do. And then you transition into school and 9 to 5, and you're constantly in these spaces where there's rules and regulations and boundaries. And yes, you can do this, and no, you can't do that. And then when you finally get into this business, you're just like, okay, I said I wanted this, but what am I supposed to be doing? And you don't really realize you really are creating your own set of rules. And it's up to you to decide if it works for you or not. It really, and it's refreshing, but it's also extremely scary because you don't have a gauge,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's wide open, and
Mm-hmm.
and when you have so many options, I'm trying to remember. Like, I was literally having this conversation with my girlfriend yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
uh, where it's like it's not feature creep. It's like option creep or something
Uh-huh.
where you have so many options to where like it hinders you from making a decision.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Like,
It can be overwhelming, especially depending on when people who kind of can never make a decision. This may not be the life for you because there's really no right or wrong way to do anything. It's like you just jump
yeah,
in and try it out. So yeah, you
yeah,
gotta.
and literally the same option, the decision that you would make given a particular time or
Uh-huh.
setting may turn out to be good or bad.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
like it's a being a one trick pony is not this is not the space to do that. Like,
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. It takes a lot of work. But the good thing is being an entrepreneur has definitely it's almost been like a therapy for me because it's tied to who you are as a person, how you
mhm,
move in your business. And
yeah.
you'd be like, well, why did I do that? And then you'd be like, because I'm usually used to doing blah, blah, blah. So you kind of
Yes.
learning yourself. You're learning yourself while you're building a business. So it's pretty exciting. Like I'm loving learning about different areas of my life. I'm like, girl, I didn't know you was doing that all these years, but you were.
Yeah, it's and these are all just sort of like just milestones in life, right?
Oh
Like you
yeah.
start a bit, you get a job, then you're like, okay, let me do this, and then
Uh-huh.
you say, okay, well, I have this thing I want to do. Let me just start a business, or let me
Uh-huh.
just work on this project. Okay, and then from there, oh yeah, maybe I need to incorporate and do some taxes,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe I need to hire some people because things
Yep.
are moving, and you just sort of go down these you just have these little milestones, you
Mm-hmm.
down the way that you
Mm-hmm.
just often didn't even expect doing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like me, I started a business, much like many black people or black creators or just
Mm-hmm.
creators in general, where like I was doing stuff and selling stuff, and then at some point somebody said, hey, you should probably start a business so that you could, like you don't get messed up with taxes or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I just don't start messing with you. And so did that, and so now I'm at this point now where it's like I started a business, but it's sort of out of the stuff that I'm doing. Some of the things I'm doing is out of the scope of what that business does.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like I might have to start another entity just to sort of contain the other stuff that I'm doing. And so now it's like now I'm going to be a serial entrepreneur. It's like just and I just want to just like draw pictures and just like make cartoons and stuff like
Uh-huh.
but the consequences of that leads to having to do certain things to continue those operations.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, this is why they say adulting sucks, because you just want to wake up and just do stuff, and then they're like, oh well,
I just want to
you
be
have to have
great. I
this.
just want to have fun. I don't want
Yeah.
all this extra. I'm telling you, and you feel that the words definitely during tax time. I just be like, so I got to do what again? What you want?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
you need all these documents? Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, I live in spreadsheets, so like I'm good with that because
Uh-huh.
I have to track expenses. I have to do all that just
Uh-huh.
freelancing. And so the thing I suck at is that I will put the stuff in the spreadsheet,
Uh-huh.
but I will have a folder full of all the references that are in the spreadsheet. So I got to go through and like, I don't be
What
taking
was this
pictures of
again? What was
nothing.
that again?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I'd be like, I know what this is. I just don't know. I don't know where the physical receipt is
Uh-huh.
or reference is, because that's in that freaking pile. So if you want to go through that, cool. But if not, we'll just mark that as pending.
Marketing. That was marketing over there.
Yeah.
I totally get that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's tough though, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so I guess like one of the big curiosities I've always had with like boutiques is that like
Mhm.
as a boutique, do you like make all the stuff, or do you source some of the stuff, or like what does it look like for you, like when you are like going your 9 to 5, and then you have people that take orders in, and then are you like making the stuff and putting it together and then sending it off, or
Some
what
of
is
it
it?
is made, but a lot of it, especially as of lately, is purchased from a wholesaler.
Hmm,
And so that definitely is my main source. Most of the stuff comes from LA too. So that is definitely how I get most of my items. I will say that I would love to create my own line because I feel like I have a pretty good idea of those signature closet pieces that look good on all body types. Just
mhm.
that, like those things that you need for your closet that I would like to be specifically from me. So that definitely is something I'm working on. But primarily, the majority of the items are I purchase wholesale and then resell them. So
Okay, okay.
yeah,
And how has that, because you primary like you're not getting stuff overseas and having to deal with like,
sometimes, yeah,
embargoes or
actually.
shipping and stuff. Like how has that been? Have you noticed a difference like pre-pandemic to like now, where like
The difference for me is how much slower the products come in. It's
Mm,
like I used to be able to order stuff in a certain amount of time and get it maybe from overseas, maybe 10 days. There was one package that took 30 days, and I just was
mm,
like, this is going to be an issue. So I'm having to, and I'm getting better at it, organize what I'm selling. Like I just mapped out what I'm selling over the next 2 months.
mm,
And so maybe in a month, I'll have to think about my June and July apparel because
yeah,
I have to be ahead of the curve because you just never know what's going to happen, especially with some of these states getting shut down again. And
yeah,
sometimes you don't know where they're really coming from or where it's the
like
process
being
is to get to
batting
you.
through.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and so that definitely is forcing me, which I guess is a perk, getting me on my toes. But you just don't know how much longer it's going to take, and then sometimes you get items in the quality is not quite what you expected it to be. So you need that extra buffer time to get it back to them and have it replaced with something better. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. It's there's just many full-time jobs that
Yeah. Sometimes my brain is like, listen, girl, listen. We need a nap. You doing too much.
yeah. Like I feel like I would like January and February, I was recovering from the holiday season.
Oh,
And
yes.
then one like as I was recovering, then I was like, crap, I gotta do the tax stuff by March 15th. And so then I was scrambling and so I think I'm like just now getting over like the tax hump
Uh-huh.
right now. And so now we're going into summertime, and summertime tends to be like a bump, but I don't know. I think I'm pushing back.
A bump in sales for you?
Yeah, typically like a bump in sales and like
Definitely.
and stuff, like things come out. But because things are probably going to be shut down even longer, uh, the reality is that like I probably should just be seasonal, just like as like because they I get huge spikes in
Yeah.
like I get huge spikes in particular times, and so
Uh-huh.
it's like I could plan for that as a small studio,
Uh-huh.
but just sort of like being able having to source and do all these things on a regular basis
Uh-huh.
for like a handful of sales every month. I think people can wait.
I think I think that's totally like a great thought. I think I actually was thinking that too because I was like, what if I could quit by June of 2022? And I was like, we'll see how it's gonna go. Don't do too much too soon because it is like this. It really
Yeah,
is. So I'm like at the very least trying to create two other products that I actually have in the works and hoping that maybe they will cover those months or my downtimes of no sales for the
yeah,
clothes. And so maybe that'll work better, which is another perk that I realized in COVID. Like it gave me a chance to think about other things that I actually want to produce, which I
yeah.
didn't have the
Hmm.
time to because I was always so busy. So yeah, I definitely, yeah, I love
Yeah,
it.
it's okay. Okay. So yeah, I definitely appreciate the time. It's
Yes.
a great conversation. I think where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. I think my Instagram is shop 97211 and the shop 972ELEVEN. And
Definitely would have put like the 1-1.
yeah, I know. And it's the zip code that I was raised in. So I was like, you can work with that. So
Yeah.
972ELEVEN. And then Facebook is just 97211. So you definitely can find me on both. And also my website, 97211.com.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, definitely we'll plug that in there in the descriptions and in all the stuff for the podcast. And one of the questions that I always like to ask the guests,
Hmm.
because I feel like I have the luxury to do that, is you being in Portland, you
Uh-huh.
being from Portland,
Hmm.
uh, and you've been other places, right? Like
Hmm.
I imagine you've left Portland.
Yes.
Uh, like what is the blackest thing you've done in Portland?
Oh my gosh, that is a stupid dope question. Um, the blackest thing I've done in Portland, I would have to say being part of the Black Lives Matter movement uh, during the peak of the pandemic.
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen so many people in Oregon come around um, the issue of African Americans and our safety and our health and our well being. I don't think I've ever experienced that in my entire life. And then it made it that much blacker when the entire world almost essentially was part of the same movement. Like, I don't think I could ever experience a more black moment in my life. Yeah.
Or you did you find yourself laying on the bridge for the photo op?
I didn't. However, I really missed out on that. My daughter had me downtown plenty of days during the movements we had at the Pioneer Square. We were
Hmm.
there for that, but we actually didn't get to do the march over the bridge. But I do have a photo. I actually printed it and I framed it in my house. I
Mm,
definitely never ever want to forget that moment ever.
yeah, yeah. That was because like I'm out on NATO, and so over by like Union Station. So
Uh-huh.
like it, I was there for all of it, like all the flashbangs, all of freaking, all these, like just everything that was happening,
Yeah.
like in downtown. Like that mess was like 5 blocks away from me.
It was, I don't think that I almost am getting a little like teary. I don't think that I ever expected that. And it definitely was a world changer. It definitely changed my life for the better. And I think the biggest part was my daughter being old enough to be part of it and to witness it. And
Yeah.
it was like we are a part of history. And I'll
Hmm.
never, ever, 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 ever forget
Yep. Lily White Portland
it.
being, one of the pinnacles of the movement.
I
you
know,
know.
I know.
I think that is a it's just I think during like all the stuff, it was just like that was just the thing that I just kept cracking up about.
Yeah.
It's just like freaking
I think people are still in shock. It probably even primarily the white people like that. They probably never, ever, ever thought that that would be here. And the movement lasted for so long. I think it
it
was
was
just mind blowing. Like, okay, we've had enough, you guys. We heard you. Let's get back to business as usual. And it just wouldn't stop. I know they were
it,
going crazy. I
it's
loved it though.
it was just I don't know, like it's it's just and then it happened, and it's over, or it might be over. I mean, like, I don't know, like everything is just up in the air at this
I'm
point.
still waiting to see how everything pans out. I
Yeah,
really
like
am.
that. Like, what are the consequences of all these things, whether they're
Yeah.
good or bad, or
Yeah.
because I just still walking by Pell Books. I saw a little poster of like the I-5 corridor, and
Yes.
thing with Harriet Tubman. And so it's like, out of all this stuff that happened, like, what is going to happen with that? Like,
Yeah.
what are the effects of all these things?
Yeah.
Is it is this something that's going to, trickle down to, improving, you know, the existence of Black people
Yeah.
in Portland, or are
Yeah.
we just going to just see the same things happening? And
Yeah.
so,
Or
you
if
know,
it's going to be worse to prove a point, the consequences be high. So
yeah,
I definitely am uh definitely praying that things work out in our favor. Things happen that we didn't even expect to happen in
yeah,
a positive way for everybody. So yeah.
yeah. So, hey, as long as we keep, starting businesses and having
Yeah.
impact, and, uh, finding some level of agency amongst ourselves, like I think
Yeah.
that can mitigate some of the effects.
Yeah.
Um, but I think this is all just a big experiment,
Yeah.
and no one really knows until
Yes.
things just sort of start to happen. And
Yeah.
so, uh, you know,
I think it changed a lot of lives individually. That for sure I do know because it definitely changed mine. Um, but I really do hope that it works out overall for Portland itself.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. So we'll see.
yeah.
But yep. Again, I appreciate the time. Appreciate the conversation, and hopefully everybody just gets to know you a little bit better. And
Thank you. I was so happy to be here. This has been fantastic.
yeah, it's I just really enjoy just being able to connect with people on
Yes.
a personal
Same here.
aside from the many hats that we hold,
Hmm.
and stuff. And so I think podcasting is just it's a good way to do that. Black Rose PDX Podcast is recorded at the Seoul District Business Association office in collaboration with Flossin Media. We're located off of Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Portland, Oregon. This podcast is recorded, mixed, and mastered by Stephen Christian. Background music is provided by Spring Gang at Epidemic Sound. Follow us on all social media platforms at PDX Black Rose. PDX BLACK ROSE. Give us a rate and review on your favorite podcast platform like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many more. Click the subscribe button to get notified about new episodes. And make sure to share this podcast with your friends and family. Thank you.